Well, the sun is shining. The ocean is crystal clear blue. There goes my little speedboat there, flying by on this New Year's Day. Start of a new decade, January 1st, 2020, as we get a look at Gulfstream Park, going strong since early February of 1939. Certainly as we get underway with not a cloud in the sky, wishing everybody, including Ron Nicoletti, a happy and healthy start to 2020 and a new decade.
Whole new decade is starting off. It's amazing, 2020, and the weathermen cooperated today. It is absolutely gorgeous. I think it was 55 degrees this morning, going to be in the 70s today. No humidity. You can't ask for anything better.
No, and the card is stacked on this special New Year's Day of 2020 program here at Gulfstream Park. And as the sun started to set on New Year's Eve, there was a very special racehorse arriving just a few miles up the road at Fort Lauderdale Airport, of course, Omaha Beach, who pulled into the Gulfstream Park backstretch last night, right around 9 p.m., give or take. And here he comes with foreman Jose Barrera, who's in town for Hall of Fame trainer Richard Mandela. You've got Omaha Beach 24 days out, Ronnie, from that Pegasus World Cup on January 25th. Now bedded down in Barn 12 on the backstretch here at Gulfstream. Certainly, as we get a look at him, I know it was dark outside, but the video's really great. He was no worse for the wear coming off the van in that plane ride.
Yeah, he looks very well and calm and collected, checking everything out. Seeing, hey, look at this new place. I'd never been here before, so that's why you like to. I love horses when they get him here early. As you mentioned, 24 days. He's got a chance to acclimate to the local surroundings, get on the track, get used to his barn. I like that.
And paid a visit to him this morning. He is one laid-back customer, really quality, classy horse, of course, who will look to go out a winner in the Run Happy Pegasus World Cup Dirt here on January 25th. So we're glad Omaha Beach is here. We'll get Hall of Famer Richard Mandela in town in a few days. I know he's a big fan. He had mentioned the Jay Pridman after the Malibu. He likes Joe Stone Crab.
Oh, he'll be there. Then this is time of year that everybody loves Joe Stone Crab. So got to get down there to South Beach. They're good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. How about $1.5 million, the guarantee, Ronnie Boy, in the New Year's Day Jackpot Rainbow Six? That'll start in race number 5 this afternoon. There are it's one after another regarding the quality turf races on this card. Race 1 is no exception. Races 7, 9, and 10 are all top class as well. A little bit blustery in that half-mile tower shot there as we settle in and take a look at the Super High Five, the first race of a new decade here at Gulfstream Park with 13,000 plus in the carryover kitty, and Ronnie will have a ticket in that $1.5 million guaranteed Rainbow Six coming up at the beginning of segment number 2 here on the show. But I'm going to take a little stab here, Ronnie, and I know there's a pretty big scratch in the first race of the 3 gunmen. This is still a very compelling maiden special weight for the newly turned 3-year-olds. And by the way, of course, a little remiss not to mention it a few moments back, but happy birthday to all the thoroughbreds out there who are a year older, that is, rather. So 3-year-olds ready to knock heads in the first race on 147.10 on the turf to start. Down the line, if you will turn your pages to race number 4, I'm going to stand alone with a kind of a wise guy horse and maybe an all-or-nothing type horse in the 7, Free Flamey, who ran 14 days ago. Maybe he displaced, maybe he bled. Clearly there was an issue, but he is back 2 weeks later for Joe Orsino with a rod in the irons, and I see the big drop with the rod staying wasn't lost on you. You've got him second.
Yeah, I got him second. I think he's a logical contender in there. So $16, and you went 4 deep, and this race really became much more wide open with the Scratcher Gunman, who I thought was going to be the big favorite in here.
Definitely. I probably, Ronnie, had Gunman stayed in, I probably only would have used 2.
Right.
Him as like the insurance horse, and I'm taking a shot with the 7 Bad Beat Brian, who clearly is not one of the traditional horses to beat on paper. More on him in a few seconds. I think off the bat, though, with no gunman in the race, it's worth taking a step back here to what was that, weekend number 2 during this winter meet at Gulfstream on December 7th with Fake Muse and Maverick Kitten, who are coming out of the same race. They both were trying a route of ground for the first time. In the case of the 11 Maverick Kitten, this was his first start, and he was a horse that finished up with some pretty good interest despite not really having any early position or any early speed. Fake Muse also ran a very good race considering he was over 50-1, and boy, did he get a good ride from Ricardo Santana Jr. Here he comes looking for some room and trying to find a seam. In fact, he'll angle out and finish full of run here. The number 2, split horses, in fact. Good effort out of Fake Muse, and here comes the Ramsey horse, who was kind of a no-impact fourth, but still a horse you would think, Ronnie, off this debut would be set to move forward second time out.
Yeah, as you mentioned with Fake Muse, 53-1 that day, ran a very good race, so we'll see. And that was that horse's first time ever trying to route a ground on the turf that you mentioned. But I want to hear about the 7 from Kieran McLaughlin.
Well, this is just a pedigree stab for me. I look at the 7 Bad Beat Brian, who cost quite a decent amount of money for Big Dom Racing Stable, $115K. And here's a little bit of the backstory concerning a colt who's by Jack Milton. I mean, Jack Milton wasn't Wise Dan, but he was a very good Grade 1 and a kind of a durable Grade 1 type turf horse, and especially miler, who had a couple of good years, to say the least, for trainer Todd Pletcher. So you get a turf influence right off the bat with Jack Milton. The dam herself won 7 turf races for over $250,000, and who's been riding the turf, maybe selectively, but Jersey Joe upset a Grade 1 field at Santa Anita Park last Saturday, and boy, did he ride a perfect trip turf winner here Sunday afternoon. I like the zone. Our good buddy Jersey Joe Bravo's in, Ronnie, riding the grass.
Yeah, and you get a really solid price of 9-1 right now. Now, very early in the wagering, I scratched into the number 4 Smirk. I did have Gunman on top of my ticket. This is a half-brother to Superstar Elate, making his turf debut for Bill Mott after breaking slowly. Really never got untracked in his special weight debut, but that was going a mile in the 16th. It was on the sloppy Churchill main track. I'm going to put a line through there. Edgar Zayas will be in the saddle today, so scratched into Smirk for me, and I used Maverick Kitten and Fake Muse, the 2 horses we showed.
Yeah, I'm curious to see with Maverick and Fake Muse how this race, in terms of quality, will stack up against the field that they drop out of. Before Gunman scratched, I thought this race might have at least the ability to maybe be a notch tougher. We'll see ultimately if that holds true, but a nice opener to start 2020 here in a new decade at Gulfstream. Let's move on to the second, my friend. We hit the main track. We've got some older filly mare 12-5 to 10-5 claimers, and you and I both towards the outside, looking at the 8 Bulldat, the drop down, and less distance. Less is more, I think, with the 10 Dixieland Humor.
Yeah, turning back to the sprint distance after tracking 4 wide last time out. Finished second against similar going that 1-turn mile here last time out. Ralph Nix just having a great start to the meeting. You got apprentice Christian Torres handling what I'll call a classic turn back move, Bulldat, and then I use Varsovia in there as my closeout, and then it's the number 3.
All right, let's move on to number 3, race number 3, as we step back on the turf. And I think off the bat, a couple of key subset rematches within the border of this optional claiming 1-mile turf race. You've got Alien Invasion and our top pick, the 5 Gins and Tins, who I feel as though they're coming out of the best field, that Tropicat race back on December 20th. And then there's a whole bunch of horses who have a chance here, or coming out of a different race, won by the old Class Warrior, my point exactly, back on December 14th. But in the case of the 5 Gins and Tins, last effort was good, and I'd love to see him get involved and get up close in the game early on.
Yeah, I think the good spot for me. He's dropping that notch on the competition scale. He departed from the rail. He finished that rallying third. He was beating a length going that mile against 25 starter optional claimers. You're getting Rajiv Mirage in the saddle, and I just think this horse, off that performance, and should be a little closer to the pace this afternoon, breaking from post 5. Alien Invasion is going to break from the rail, set the pace. He's got some speed now. He has the speed, the post, needed to maybe spring the upset over Gin and Tins today. I like him. I don't know what price he is on the board, but I think that he'd be a good pick in there to use in your exact and try it. I think he's, let's see, Alien Invasion.
That's the third race,
Yeah.
Ronnie. Yep.
There
Flip
you
that
go.
page. What's he got?
9-2.
9-2. So 4.5 on Alien Invasion, who, again, that running style may help him out. It looks like he's slowly started to tail off, and he's not the same horse that he was for a race or two in September and early October at GPW, but that speed could go a long way in the third race on the turf. Back on the main, as we flip the page, we're on to Wednesday's fourth race on this January 1st. 2 lifetime 6250 older claimers. Like I said with my early pick 5, I'm taking a bit of a wise guy horse. Not that it'll be that big of a price. I just don't see, off a 60-length drubbing, I don't see trainer Joe Orsino running the 7 Free Flamey back 2 weeks later, keeping a Rod Ortiz Jr. if they didn't say, whoa, something happened in that last race. We're putting him in for the bottom, and we think he's going to be very tough.
Yeah, I mean, put him on a ticket for all the reasons you mentioned. I did go with the 3 Cabre on top. He's making his local return at 3/4 of a mile. Really an interesting pair, of course, down at Gulfstream Park Wedge. He was beating the neck going 5.5 furlongs. Then he comes back, he sets the pace, and he fades. That's going that 2-turn mile in his last. I think this is a good spot from Free Flamey for the reasons you meant. And I used the 6 Hugh Evans, second and third White Trust. It was changing barns. He ran a clunker last time out, but you put a line, it was on a sealed sloppy track. I think he runs better on the fast track.
He
today.
could be one of a couple of key new claim horses in the race. You've got Georgie Delgado sending out the 4 Bullgrats, while I've got third, and of course Zerpa off the claim with the 6 Wide Trust, and a little bit of an uncle-nephew battle with Gustavo and Georgie Delgado knocking heads there with Cabre and Bullgrats in that fourth race. As we take a little time out, we chase 1.5 million plus and a whole lot more after this. Hey, everybody, a new decade here at Gulfstream Park, and a happy new year once again. Happy birthday to all the horses out there. Smiling Ron Nicoletti. He's chomping at the bit, folks. Jason Blewett alongside. Stronach 5, Ronnie. We kick off the new year welcoming Santa Anita Park back into the mix. Another $100,000 guaranteed sequence coming up in just a couple of days, and an action-packed Friday, no doubt, because it's also Beat the Expert.
Yeah, Beat the Expert Day. I believe Acacia will be up for Beat the Expert. And as you mentioned, the Stronach 5, a couple of races from Gulfstream Park, one from Santa Anita. There's that lovely Acacia with that big smile. She'll try and beat her on Friday. Fun thing. Free. How could you not want to play?
Always a good time. And we've been getting upwards of 200 people playing for free, by the
Right.
way, and it's easy peasy to sign up over at GulfstreamPark.com. So throw your hat into the ring. Big fields all week long, and that'll set us up naturally for a big Saturday afternoon here, a stakes-heavy Saturday card. And here, Laurel Park, race number 8 on that Friday, January 3rd of 2020 at about 3:50 Eastern starts the Stronach 5, and we cash things out down the line. The gang's all there, Ronnie. Santa Anita Park wraps it up.
Yeah, it wraps it up about 5:08 p.m. We got, as I mentioned, 2 from Gulfstream. Our 9th and 10th races on that Friday card. Both of those on the turf. So always a bit of a head scratcher, and that's why you get the big payoffs with the 12% takeout.
And we've got the Mucho Macho Man on Saturday, our road to the Florida Derby, and Triple Crown naturally picks up with the Mucho Macho, expected to include Chancet, who is by far the best 2-year-old we had down here all summer long. Now, the Rainbow Six has remained constant throughout a good chunk of this meet, meaning that the pool has been north of that 7-figure $1 million mark, and today, no exception. What are you doing?
1.5 million, stepped it up again, $57.60. 3 deep in here with the 2 B-Wings, 9 Gala Jack, and 5 Big Boss Lady. I think I got the logical 2 in race number 6 with Sue's Monster Baby, probably Grace. My best bet today is Gorgon in race number 7, but I did use the 4 Short Shore Magic in there, one of those great turf races you were alluding to. Too deep in race number 8 with the 5 and 6 Fast Pass. That's a nice horse, but why are you awesome? I'm going to use that one on the ticket.
Good race.
And my long shot today, even though I use 4 deep, is the number 8 Soul Spirit, 15-1 for Tommy Albatroni. I like to turn back to 9 furlongs. That's a wide open affair. So if you can get a horse that gets a good trip, you might be able to get paid. Then 3 deep in the last.
Oh, the late double today,
Yeah.
I mean, is top class all the way. That 9th race with Ronnie's long shot is a loaded 12-horse turf allowance race at 1 mile and a 16th, and then we wrap it up with a 3-year-old filly maiden special weight, so on the turf as well. So, yeah, turf is where it's at. The final couple of races on the card, and in fact, wouldn't you know it, our starting point in this first Rainbow Six of the new year, a 3-year-old filly, $32,000 to $30,000 claimer, in which off the bat, I think you probably, Ronnie, on top, have the horse to beat in the 2 B-Wings, who is coming out of the same race with the 10 Maricopa. They basically had the same kind of trip. B-Wings followed Maricopa. They both saved ground. They both ran pretty well, and you like B-Wings to score and turn the tables.
Yeah, debuting locally for Brenda Walsh after proving she could handle 2 turns on the turf, which was important when she rallied to finish second, beat and a half length, as you just mentioned, at this 7.5 furlong distance. Tyler Gaffalione talking to a guy who's been riding in good form the last couple of days. So put that one on top. But I can understand you having the number 5 Big Boss Lady on top of the ticket there for David Fawkes.
I love the pedigree. I know you've got a good stat. We'll bring that up with Mr. David Fawkes, obviously one of the more high-profile year-round trainers here on this circuit. He's done pretty well picking his spots, making this exact same move.
Yeah, he's one of these guys that sort of flies a little bit under the radar with this move. Dirt to turf, maiden claimers all levels. He's good. He's 19%, 40% in the money, positive return investment. So I just thought that horse would run well. Now I'm a little further down the ticket than you, but I can understand having him on top.
I love Street Boss the Stallion with his turf runners, elusive quality dam. Good enough for me to give that one the narrow call over the Deuce B-Wings in that 5th race. Halfway home here as we start our late pick 5. Good sequence indeed, a very good sequence. In fact, so good I've got no singles and a $36 ticket with some coverage and some wiggle room that I think you're probably going to need. Certainly, I think that's the case with this play in races 7 and 10 this afternoon, and no fewer than 2 horses throughout the sequence there, starting in race number 6, that sees a very high percentage Larry Ravelli with a good-looking Chicago winner last out from Hawthorne, and the number 1 Probably Grace knocking heads with the suddenly resurgent Jorge Navarro barn in the 4 Sue's Monster Baby. Had this race been carded, say, 2 weeks ago, Ronnie, I probably wouldn't pick the 4 Sue's Monster Baby, but clearly a mile proved too far last time out, and all of a sudden you're dealing with the barn that won 6 races here last week.
Yeah, and I think he's dropping his horse to the proper level, the 12.5 level, after following those back-to-back $20,000 sprints at GP West. Comes back, stalks, fades. That was against 50 starter optional claimers, so he's putting horses where they belong after they had to start here. So I just think that was a logical one, but Probably Grace, as you mentioned. That was some performance. Won that race by 6 lengths in Chicago.
And you would think just properly spotted here, first time. And a Florida bred, good to see some economics 101 coming into play here with this Florida bred shipping to Gulfstream for trainer Larry Ravelli. Dropping out of a race at Hawthorne that has produced the next out winner from 6 to return, a maiden 25 in Chicago. Race number 7 now. We are up in class and a very good race going at 1 mile and a furlong. In fact, the longest race here today at Gulfstream Park. I am a ship-in kind of guy in this spot, and Ronnie and I just boxing up the Clement horse, who I picked, the 4 Shore Magic, who's in from Kentucky, and then you've got Gogon, who's coming in from the Big Apple. Now, this 7-year-old German bred will backtrack to his last race in the middle of November. The issue I have with him, it's not a big issue, but it's something I think that needs to be stated. He is just 1 for 19, and although this is a very good race, and maybe he would have been a little closer had he been able to get outside, as the top 4 horses basically came together and bunched together, and it looked like there was no real clear room. I don't think he was going to win this race, though, and, I mean, truth be told, Ronnie, he's a major player, but, I mean, I couldn't, for at least as far as picking him on top, he hasn't won a race since July 3rd of 2016. That was a long time ago.
I looking at the past performance. I had to look at it 3 times. This horse ran 2 days apart. for Bill Mott.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Yeah, I
never
missed that
seen this
too.
before.
Yeah,
So
it's crazy.
he's debuting locally at 9 furlongs for Bill after a couple of, I thought, well-meant turf outings. You saw one at Aqueduct. He was third going 11 furlongs. Last out, and he was second going a mile 3 days or 2 or 3 days early. So they must have said something to bring this horse back that quick because Bill usually doesn't do something like that. I actually had to look at the form like 3 times to make sure it wasn't last November, and it wasn't. So just one of the horses I put on top of. I can understand Shore Magic cutting back to a mile and an eighth after following that maiden scored Keeneland. He runs, that was going a mile 3/16. He breaks slowly. He's the one to beat. Julian too, riding in good form.
Yeah, and which is good. And I like that the number 4 Shore Magic is still on the lightly race side of things. He's a Medaglia d'Oro arch with Clement. So the aggregate to that says this is a horse who's supposed to and likely going to take a step forward each and every time he races. And watching that race last out from Churchill at a mile and 3 furlongs, it's a 3-turn race. They break. And they are right on that first turn. I mean, literally within about 3 strides. So he had post 12. It was just a slog for him after that. Just hung out to dry the entire 3 turns at 11 furlongs.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's almost impossible when you make that quick turn here. Same thing when we have certain distances here. If you're parked on the outside, 7.5 furlongs, it's tough to win. You didn't use the other Clement in here. That's Du de Calais from Christophe. Returns as a gelding. He hasn't been seen since the summer of 2018, but he gets IRAD. I didn't know what to do with this horse. I put him further down the ticket. Just interesting to me.
Yeah, he has obviously. I mean, that was the Kent back in mid-July. The Triple Crown for Justify was about 5 weeks old the last time this French bred ran. I prefer the other Clement, but a good race. Of the locals, Peter Walder's really done an outstanding job. He's really done excellent work all year with the 1 golden decision. And although I think he's stepping up to a tougher race, he comes out of a good effort against a horse who had a lot of backclass and ran to it in Battle of Blenheim. So I think golden decision of, again, the familiar faces.
Yeah.
I prefer him the most, and clearly you do too.
Yeah, I put him on a ticket. But the thing I didn't like was the 0 for 4 record at the distance. So, winning record. So put him on my super ticket for sure.
I hear you. I saw that, and I said, he ran okay at a mile and a half. I don't know if that equates one to the other, but he has run well and run fine in races a little longer than a mile and a 16. So hopefully the 9 furlongs isn't an issue today, as a 9 won't be an issue for sure in race number 8 because we're sprinting on the dirt. In fact, our final cruise and spin around the GP main track this afternoon is a good one at that, considering you've got 4. Basically, this race amounts to a 4-horse rematch from the Claiming Crown Express. Now, Fast Pass, speaking of Peter Walder with golden decision in the race prior, had this horse and Peter was on the record saying, I think he's a work short of his best. He got a fast pace, but I'm thinking had Peter been able to get another breeze under his belt, he probably wins. A moot point because he runs well and loses a tough photo. The rematch, though, in terms of just of importance today, Ronnie, probably boils down to the kind of tactical stalking speed style of the 5, Why Are You Awesome, against more of a late closing horse in Fast Pass. Who do you like in the rematch here?
Well, I like Why Are You Awesome. I don't know if he's going to get that Fast Pass is going to get that same exact pace of 21 and 4 and 44 and 4, even though Travie Boy is in that race who actually did the pace setting in there. And he ran awfully well Fast Pass, but I went with the 5, Why Are You Awesome. Now in the Elizabeth Dobles bond, he returns this gelding and the starter Claiming's around. He returned from the layoff. He dueled, he flattened out in the Express. He stakes place. I think he runs better in here today. I just see
for sure. Well, and Harry He's an early scratch.
Yeah, Harry He's an early scratch. I just seen that there wasn't going to be that kind of pace. Now, Fast Pass got that perfect setup last time out and could have won. He only lost by a little bit. It wasn't that he lost. And you were right. I was not on that horse thinking he wouldn't like the distance and everything, and he ran exceptionally well. So I had to use both of those horses on my ticket.
Yeah, maybe it'll come down to who, quite simply, at this stage of the game is the better racehorse, because when you draw this 7th or 8th race, rather, up without Harry He, you've got the mare on the rail, Starship Raina. She's likely ascend, but can she run with the 4 Travie Boy? regardless, it seems like the 5 Why Are You Awesome is just going to land in that perfect spot, maybe tracking third and ready to pounce. Fast Pass may have a little more work to do as far as outclosing everybody, but a good rematch again with two different styles and two quality veterans in that 8th race. Turning our attention to race number 9, we kick off an all-turf late double, and a good one at that. In fact, a great one for a weekday here at GP. Cast of 12 ready to rumble at a mile and a 16th in this 9th race, an older filly mare. Non-win is a 1 allowance race in which we got the headline earlier in the show, Ronnie. You're taking a shot with the Brad Cox to Tom Albertrani Soul Spirit, your long shot on this January 1st.
Yeah, just 15-1 in Tom's bond, turning back to 9 furlongs after making that middle move. Flattened out a little bit when that race, finishing 6th against that allowance competition. Going 11 furlongs at Churchill. Edgar Zayed in the saddle today. Why can't this horse run well? I mean, I know there's 2 Chads. I know all the stories. I just thought if you're looking for a bit of a price. Now, I did go 4 deep in my ticket for that exact reason. I'm not 1,000% sold.
No,
but I
of
think if
course.
this horse gets the trip, he could win it at a price.
Yeah, I think you got a live long shot here, certainly with good connections, and quite simply probably found 11 furlongs just a little too far
exactly.
Last time out. He gets a mile and a 16th this afternoon. But you've got, again, a pretty deep field. Goes with the territory, as we like to say this time of year, and this race a very good example of that. Barika left Gulfstream Park last winter with Danny Gargan and did not miss a beat over the summertime. And if you were wondering ultimately how would she fare returning to South Florida, well, she didn't win her last start. In fact, she was a Ronnie Price play here back on December 7th. And I still am under the impression, and a lot went well for her where she was able to save ground and didn't have to go too wide and all that stuff. But I'm thinking, had she been a little more forwardly placed in hindsight, and not to play, Monday morning jockey here, had she just had a slightly luckier trip off the far turn when the field really started to come together in a big group of horses, I'm thinking she probably wins. But in the end, she had to swing wide, and she comes with a terrific run outside. I like this effort a lot.
Oh, no, that's exceptional. Well, now, besides my long shot, this was my horse to absolutely beat. Just mired in that little bit of trap, sitting behind it, had to find the trip. But you see that a lot in turf races. I think this horse can run exceptionally well. But we got a couple of horses in the field from Chad Brown. So it doesn't get easy. One of them being smooth as with a kick is a daughter of Candy Rod, debuting on the turf for Chad. So I looked up a stat on the smooth with a kick for Chad Brown. First time trying the turf at Gulfstream Park. He's 24 for 108, 22%. 44% in the money, 182 is a return investment. That's first time ever trying the turf here at Gulfstream Park. So I threw that out, and of course you got the 3 horse in there that could be dangerous too.
Yeah, smooth with a kick, cost a lot, has burned a lot of money along the way with that 1-for-7 record. I kind of fooled around thinking maybe she'd have some turf on the immediate dam side of things. Not really. Kind of a dirt pedigree that goes back to Jarmar Reigns. So that said, I prefer to the 2 Chads, clearly the 3 Clairvoyants, who's getting more or less a late start to a career. She's now 5. She's only run a couple of times, but her races in Jersey were okay. And that Here Comes Jackie, who she faced last time out. I mean, she's a seasoned horse for trainer Mike Denny. Pretty good turf allowance horse. Maybe that bodes well for Clairvoyance moving forward, who has a rod. Ronnie 8-1 with his long shot. I'm going to go 1-3 in the 9th race. And we'll wrap things up here. Don't miss a beat for sure. Race 10 on this January 1st of 2020 is a 3-year-old filly, 50K maiden special weight at a mile and a 16th. We're all over the place, for the most part. I see that one sort of defining horse is the 6 and 9. In fact, 2 of them, Ronnie, Osaka Girl and the 9 Lucky Polly. And I look at your exacta, and these 2 fillies are rematching. Clearly, you think they might just be the goods in this race.
Yeah, Lucky Polly, of course, like everybody that was 2, is making her 3-year-old debut the first start. She came within the neck of exiting the maiden ranks, going that mile. It was on that Keeneland turf course. Mark Cassie, Tyler Gaffney just seems to be in the zone on the turf course. Osaka Girl, same reasoning. Just thought those were the logical 2 in here.
Yeah, they both ran well in that October 4th race that saw them matching up at Keeneland and their major players here. Along, I am hoping, with the 11 Mrs. S, who has kind of, to this point, she's been the 3-year-old filly stablemate and counterpart to a horse named Candy Tycoon, who I think a lot was expected of with Todd during their 2-year-old seasons, and he's still a maiden after losing a couple of times at very short prices, and clearly things have not gone to plan when you look at 4-5, then 1-5 to this point with this Creative Cause filly. However, I think there's hope. A, it's Todd at Gulfstream. B, The dam herself was a real nice turf horse who won 4:15 on the grass and also won a couple of races on synthetic. Little Giants Causeway with Creative Cause as the sire side of things. And I'm thinking she might be a little bit of a sneaky, maybe an all-or-nothing type of Pletcher horse in the nightcap.
Well, you can't go wrong with having Pletcher on the turf at Gulfstream Park. Just goes to show you how wide open these races are. I don't have the horse in the ticket.
Yeah.
And Todd beats me all the time, so I'm sort of used to it by now.
I got to ask, though, are you ready here? You ready to bring on the man?
Oh, yeah, Pete Aiello? He's ready. He had a wild New Year's Eve. He told me he had a lot of fun, and he's ready to go. He's chomping at the bit, as they say.